Hey everybody, it's Amy McDonald here. Welcome to this very special series for the Abundant Yoga Teacher podcast and YouTube channel, where we're talking all things refining and renewing in your yoga business. You know, it's a really special time to take a look at stuff that we might have been avoiding up until now because of the hurly-burly of just getting everything done. And if you do have a little bit more time these days, I'm interested in what contemplative practices can we do to support our businesses such that when we move back into revelation phase, the things that you might have been avoiding or the things that might have been hidden previously now can be brought out into the light, honed and used to your advantage. So today we're continuing the conversation with actually a beautiful friend of mine. Elaine Grace Copeland is joining us today, and we're going to have a conversation about communication. Welcome, lovely.
Well, hello. It's so great to be here, Amy. How are you today?
You know what? I'm great. I wish I was at your house and we were sipping tea, but this is going to have to do for right now. I have the very good fortune of having you as a friend, but for people who don't know you yet, tell us a little about what it is that you do, where we can find you online.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. I have the pleasure of working from Flagstaff, Arizona. It's a beautiful place. Amy has been here, quite gorgeous in the mountains. And I work with companies, I work with executive leadership, men and women, and I also love working with folks who want to dive into their own personal performance, want to work on their own life skills, their own lifestyle, relationships, and care for themselves on how they show up every day. With themselves, with their family. Over 30 years of experience working with this idea of leadership and personal development. And I just love empowering people with an awareness and tools and care and self-love that can really shape their lives and their businesses to be the best they can, to feel good every day. Very simple.
I love it. Very simple, but also a change that once made does change, it literally redirects the course of your life. Folks, Elaine and I met at a personal development seminar in Sydney and have been friends since then. And one of the things that I love about what you do is the way that you communicate, the way that you choose your words mindfully, the way that you write me emails, and the way that it conveys your intention, a positive outcome. It's really, watching you do that and experiencing what that's like has really refined how I communicate with people and as a consequence, how I show up in my life. So I think that, it sounds like, yawn communication, but we're actually talking about, from a yoga perspective, there's strong teachings in yoga that say you create the reality that you desire by the intentions and the thoughts and the words that you use. And so this is not just, whatever communication. This is really fundamental to having a life and business that you really truly desire for yourself. So folks, just before we get into the conversation, I want you to go and follow Elaine on social media. So if you're listening to this, get your phone, find her on Instagram, Elaine Grace Copeland, and follow her, because the woman is a powerful agent for change and you won't want to miss out on anything. What's your website, Elaine, so that people can find you there as well?
www.elainegracecopeland.com. You'll find me. Yes.
Fabulous.
I keep it. Yes. And I think that, even no matter what situation we are in life, whether we're working in a studio, our own business, corporate, whatever the role that you may find yourself in, whether folks feel that they're just getting their hair brushed and being with their kids for the day is an accomplishment, or the successes come in a boardroom, or trying to decide what to make for dinner at night, that all of us need leveraging and strength and tools and support at different times. And I think that's what is so wonderful about connecting and discovering different people and different tools that are out there, so we have that support.
Yeah, I agree completely. And also sort of celebrating each of those successes along the way, regardless of their perceived magnitude. Yeah.
Yes.
I saw just before a post from a yoga teacher that I really adore, and the post was on Instagram, and it said something about like diet insight. Your pants never get too, no, your pants don't get too tight if you don't wear pants. You know, sometimes it's the small things sometimes that you realize and go, oh, I got dressed today. I got out of my pajamas. I got the kids off the screens. This is a good day. I'm going to celebrate my success.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about, I know that you have a strong background in supporting high performers to communicate better. And like you said, that high performance is transferable across vocations, across life stages.
Completely.
It's not just for CEOs or corporate, high flyers. What are some of the things that you teach people in order to be more empowered in their communication? Tell us more.
Well, I mean, just with a basic that we're all doing, I think on a daily basis is listening when someone's speaking, and not writing the script of what we're going to say, but just pausing to listen. Is there anything greater than having someone give us the space to be heard and listen to us? Whether we're working with associates in a company, our children, our partner, someone, a client. Mm-hmm. And I think that with an open heart and a strong back, and really being there to just receive what someone has to say so we can be heard, it is such a precious piece that we can give to everyone we're with.
I thoroughly agree with you, but I wonder if one of the misalignments for yoga teachers is, and maybe it comes from a codependency place, but there can sometimes be a desire to jump in and solve a problem or give a solution or identify with someone else's thing, like without letting the space be there to fully hear somebody. Mm-hmm. I want to help. I feel uncomfortable with your discomfort. Mm-hmm. I'm going to rush in with a solution. I mean, I imagine you see that with the people you work with. What do we do? I
think we're all susceptible to that. And one of my favorite clips is it's really wonderful. It's a Brene Brown clip, and it's where she shows the differences between empathy versus sympathy. Or empathy, where we can feel what someone else is experiencing, and I'm sorry you're going through that. As opposed to that situation where, your friend or you or me, I have an illness, or someone has breast cancer, and they share that, and then someone wants to tell them about their brother's, sister's, nephew's, niece's, best friend's daughter. And I'm not interested in that. You were asking me how I've been doing, and I'm sharing something very private, but very intimate.
Yeah.
And you want to go, and it's so uncomfortable for you that perhaps you just want to tell me somebody else's story. And sometimes we just need the space to say, wow, that sounds really tough. I am sorry to hear you're going through such a tough time.
Yeah.
And I think that ties into that. Sympathy is not what we want. We want to be heard, and we want someone to I don't have to have the exact same experience as you to be able to empathize that you're experiencing a discomfort, pain, or a challenging time.
Yeah. Or in sharing, I think too, doesn't mean that you're necessarily looking to the other person to give you the solution. Like you said, you just are looking for someone to hear you, not give you the oil or the pose or the breathing technique.
Nope, I don't need a remedy.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't need a remedy. I just want you to know this is what's going on.
Yeah. Okay, so listening, real listening.
Mm-hmm. And the other part was really a gift for me. So in another time in my life, I was working for a company, and I began to do a lot of speaking for the organization, keynotes and presentations at many of their companies. I was a consultant for them and an account manager. And this was before we just had our cell phones and we would videotape. So they would video me doing the presentations with a coaching team that was coaching me on how to be better at what I was doing when I would go on stage or when I would present the information. And so they would videotape me, and then basically they would critique it. that's a very polite way to say what would happen after they ran the video after our presentation. They would critique it. And yeah. And what they taught me was invaluable. And that's really what I want to share today, because it was so cool for me to learn, even though I would have, a scripted presentation that I would memorize and then ad lib part of, I would share stories to it, but there was a plan. I didn't just go out and wing what I was about to say to 1,000 people or 500 people, hi, I'm here. And what I realized is that the elements of communication that they taught me have carried through on all these years, because this was really 25 years ago.
Yeah, wow.
30 years ago. And I want to share that because I think whether we are teaching in a class or having a conversation with a small group of people, but certainly when we're presenting, and I think every instructor is presenting.
Yeah.
I mean, they're there with the opportunity to educate and share the gift that they have in their knowledge, but they are also presenting at every class.
Right. I love it. Yeah.
So there's 3 elements that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about vocal, we're going to talk about visual, and we're going to talk about verbal.
Okay.
So the first one we'll just jump into is vocal. So this is the voice of me speaking right now. This is the voice of you speaking, Amy.
Yeah.
And this includes our vocal variety, the quality, the rate, the volume, and even the vocalized pauses that we make as we're talking. And 38% of the information that is being presented by me, by you, comes from the vocal aspect of communication. Okay, so we'll dive more into that in just a minute. And then the other is visual, what we see. I see you when you're speaking, you see me, and when we're just listening to an audio, we actually have a visual of that person.
Yes.
In some way, in some animated way. So, but when it is really visual, this includes our eye contact, this includes posture, even gestures I may be making with my hands or you, and our facial expressions. Okay. And of all the information that's being presented, 55% of that information comes from the visual. And then the last is verbal. And this includes the instructor's words, the speaker's words, the presenter's words, the YouTube person speaking. This is what the person's actually saying. What they're actually teaching. And what the research shows is that only 7% of the information being presented is from the verbal aspect of communication. So we're going to dive into this.
I think this is great stuff. And folks, the thing that comes to mind in listening to Elaine share with us is this is incredibly potent for any of you who are feeling that you want to do more live video, but are scared about going live on video. Everything that Elaine is sharing is going to make your live video so much better. And I think, Elaine, what I see from people in my community is they get so pent up about the content, i.e. the verbal, and which is, you've just said, is such a small part, but things like how their body language and the delivery style is
connecting.
So much. Yes, and yet that's the bit that gets so often overlooked.
Yep. So let's talk, because we like to think that the words we speak have all the power, and words are powerful, and that's why we want to be mindful of the words we choose. But the real power in our communication is nonverbal, when we have the opportunity to be visual. And these results really show us that 93% of the information that we get comes from the nonverbal. So I'm going to dive in with the vocal communication, because remember that was 38%. So we'll start with variety. And this is this idea that no one wants to hear me speak just in a monotone voice. It's really good to be here with you today, Amy, and I'm so glad that we could get together. This is the variety in the tone of my voice right now, because my variety adds interest and it adds enthusiasm to the words I'm speaking. So I want some variety. We all know what it's like to listen to someone with just a monotone voice. And then there's the quality of the voice. This is why we want to have water. We don't want to be nasally or kind of kind of breathy, or because good quality shows, it really does add a certain sense of confidence and maybe authority, and believability to the words that someone speaking. Okay, so the quality is important. That's why it's tough when we're getting over a cold or all congested. You know, we don't really want to go speak to a group, right? We don't sound very great.
Well, the one that gets me is I was listening to a podcast of someone I really, really, really admire. I listen to nearly everything he puts out. And it was a luncheon. He was delivering a talk at a luncheon, and he was eating his lunch while talking. And I just couldn't. I just can't listen to you chew.
No.
I can't do it.
We're not going to do that, right? No. Exactly. Another part of the vocal communication is rate. So this is, you know, I'm so glad that you could have me on today, because this is just such a great opportunity to be able to speak to your listeners and let them know a little bit, you know. So the rate is going to allow me to, you know, that rate of speed to understand what you're saying. So you don't want to be so slow that people are like, get on with it. But you also don't want to be so fast that they're like, what did they just say?
Yeah.
You know, and you know how on Audible you can increase the speed of a book, you know, but there comes a point that it's like, you have no idea, but I got through the book. You don't even know what they said because it was too fast. Right.
Yeah. Or a podcast that I listen to, the woman in Melbourne, and she's so connected.
Yeah.
And in tune. And I just think, oh God, would you hurry up?
Exactly. So we want to, you know, and sometimes it is good to match the speed maybe of who you're speaking with if it's one-on-one, but you want to be mindful of that when you're speaking.
Yes.
And then the volume. Obviously, you don't want me shouting, screaming at you, because, you know, if I'm talking too loudly, that's going to have a negative effect. But if I'm speaking so softly that you can't hear me, you know, so it's about having a reasonable volume that fits the situation. And the very last one in the vocal communication are the pauses that we put in. And one is if I'm saying, you know, well, or so, you know, it just, you know, like that, like, you know, it just doesn't really, makes me I sound very unsure of myself, don't I? If I'm, you know, like it's kind of like.
Kind of. Yes, kind of.
You know, so we want to be aware of those, the things that we sometimes put in our communication to give us a moment to pause, maybe just pause without saying something, because it interrupts our message and it doesn't communicate a sense of confidence in what we're saying. All righty.
Love.
Shall we go on to visual communication?
Yes, please. These are awesome. I hope everybody's taking notes.
Yeah, they're super fun. And I'll have this for your listeners afterwards if anyone wants to reach out. So is the visual communication, and I said that was 55%, because especially when we have, you know, right now, whether it's Zoom or Google Chats or any virtual or remote room, we still have the opportunity for the visual communication.
Yes.
And eye contact, you know, looking at a person when we're talking to them, not being distracted, looking elsewhere.
Yep.
It is perhaps the most powerful form of nonverbal communication. You, Amy, have traveled almost every continent, if not every continent. Is there anything more, you know, that is communicated everywhere? Eye contact.
Yeah.
I mean, you can compliment another person with your eye contact. You can use your eye contact says you're confident about yourself and you care about the person who you're speaking with or the people who you're speaking with. So very powerful.
Yeah.
Then we have our posture. It's just how we hold and carry ourselves. Our posture can send a message of ease and confidence. You know, we want to stand upright if we're standing. If we're sitting, you know, you don't want me kind of slouched back here in my chair while I'm talking to you, you know, or so we want to carry our body in a way that says, I feel good about myself. And then
I'm
other
engaged
people
too, isn't it?
And I'm engaged with you.
I'm not out. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. So our posture is a part of our visual communication, and so are our gestures. So that can include hands or arms or shoulders and even your head as you speak. And so we want to use them to explain and support maybe what we're saying. Yet, and they also give a lot of information and variety. I mean, you know, if you watch a great comedian, between their posture and all their gestures, they can communicate a lot.
Yeah.
So gestures can be appropriate. I mean, we don't want them to be constant where, folks can't even,
That one.
yeah, or finger wagging, reprimand. And then, of course, the last one are just our facial expressions. This is who we are. This is how we show up. And it really reveals so much about our attitude, because if our facial expression doesn't match our words that I'm speaking, we tend to believe the face, not the words.
It's true.
Okay, so if I say...
Yeah, I hadn't thought about it, but you're absolutely right.
Amy, as I'm smiling, I'm saying something unkind or negative. There's just this, you're going to believe my face, but yet my words, you're confused because that that's just incongruent.
Yes.
So we really want to look at those things. Do I use variety in my voice? Do I have a good voice quality? Do I use my hands? Am I talking really fast or slow? So, going back through those, ask yourself how these apply, and we'll jump into the verbal communication, because the verbal is important, very important. And yet when people listen to us, the whole package, it's 7% of the communication.
Yeah.
One is, we want to keep it simple. If I want to talk about communication, you really don't want to hear everything I did for that company for 10 years before I ever got into this. Because the point is, I want your listeners to remember these key points, right?
Yeah.
And I want to be able to say it simply with just a few sentences, and I don't want to, overload with lots of information. Keep it simple.
Yes.
And the other is, it's helpful to explain it with an example.
Yep.
So I've given examples right now while we've been live, and then we continue and go on to the next. And I think it helps people apply it to themselves and think, oh yeah, I've done that very same thing, or I've heard people that have done that, which is why it's helpful for me to use the examples while explaining this. And then to use just clear, direct words, language that's easily understood. We don't want to talk over listeners' heads. It's wonderful if we all have a diverse and fantastic vocabulary, but maybe we want to make sure we are clear with the words we're choosing with the groups that we're speaking to.
Yeah.
And I think the last is just to respect our listeners always, keeping our listeners in mind that if I'm speaking with one person, use their name. If I'm speaking with a small group, Matt, do I know everyone's name? So I can include their names while I'm having the conversation.
Yeah.
Wrap up when you're speaking to people with your main idea so that it's going to be emphasized and listeners will remember it. And last but not least, was I clear on what I just said, Amy, to clarify that people understood?
Ask them. Yes, I like that.
Ask them.
Yeah. And I wonder if people don't do that because they're so nervous and they think this might have been a shit show. I'm just going to back away, rather like they're so frightened of the feedback. But what you're saying is it's not feedback, it's giving people the opportunity to get more clarity if they need it. It's about in service to them, not about critiquing your own presentation.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Because with that, I mean, maybe we just spoke for 20 minutes, but I would hope that any listener would go, the essence of that is vocal is 38% and verbal is really 7%, but that visual is key. And so even the most novice of YouTubers or Facebook Live, and I'm including myself in this as well, Instagram Live, if you remember, just be yourself. That's who people want to connect with. Your authenticity, your groundedness, what you have to say and who you are. But they want to see you. They want to hear, they're okay. And we have, we get to lean into our mistakes. If we just show up with who we are, that's what people want to see.
You have given us so much information in such a short period of time. I'm imagining for people who are either watching or listening to this right now, they're feeling inspired to be better at how they communicate. But I also suspect that, folks, this is one of those ones that you go back to. Don't just feel lit up and inspired. Go back, re-listen, take notes, because you've got actually very, very practical techniques and considerations so that you don't need to be, what did you say, Elaine? Critiqued on videotape. You don't need Simon Cowell situation. You can actually do this
Right.
locally for yourself and get better over time. And it's funny, you know, Elaine, I've heard, this is an unforeseen benefit with teachers that have started teaching online, and they're recording their Zoom classes and they're watching them. And for a lot of people, it's the first time that they've ever watched themselves teach. And they're having these things of, oh God, I hate the sound of my voice. I had no idea I said so much. And I didn't realize that I'm too quiet for the video. They're having all of these insights now because of this new modality. Everything that you just shared is going to help everybody who's teaching online and then back into, you know, normal life be so much better. It's golden. Thank you so much.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And, you know, when I had my studio, that was, as I've told you, one of the things I love working with. I love reviewing, not critiquing, reviewing instructors' classes and giving feedback. It's something that I've done in my coaching as well, because it is a different perspective. I'm looking at it from a different vantage point. I'm looking at it from temperaments and what your class participants want to hear, as well as sometimes we just don't see some of the small changes we can make for ourselves that can improve our presentation skills exponentially.
And conversely, I think sometimes we can beat ourselves up unnecessarily over things
100%.
that no one else has noticed.
Absolutely. Yep. Completely. Completely.
Remind us again where we can find out more from you. Oh, and then also I seem to remember that you said there might be a resource that we're all
absolutely
put together. So
absolutely,
if people
I
want
put
to learn
together
more,
a communication resource for anyone who would like to receive it. Please look at Amy's link in this recording.
Yep.
And I'm happy to send it your way.
And folks, if you can't find it in the session notes or in the email that I've sent you, if you can't find it, just send Elaine a message on Instagram. Elaine Grace Copeland is her Insta handle, and I'm pretty sure she would send you back a love note that's full of inspiration and positive energy, which is how she's always communicated with me. Thanks so much for being a guest. Everything that you've shared.
Such a pleasure.
Amazing.
Thanks, Amy. It was a pleasure. Till next time, take care.